So we've had a lot of talks about award-winning games, but the talks I found actually most interesting are the ones that are about the mistakes and the failures. It's not very easy or popular to talk about them, but it's very important that we do. Because if we don't talk about these things, we paint a very, very erroneous picture of the nature of this industry, and we don't help other developers avoid or deal with their own failures. Because we will all eventually fail at something. But it is rarely an end. It's usually the start of something new. And that's what we wanted to foster with the very first Games Hell, and we want to keep fostering, is this environment where we can have these honest talks about times when things didn't go so well. So I'm so pleased that in the spirit of this honest sharing, our next speaker is here to provide a postmortem of their studio's journey. He's an industry veteran of over 15 years, an executive producer and a co-founder. Show your appreciation for Milos Jarabek.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Oh, okay, fine. Thank you very much for making this presentation possible. Can I ask for the clicker, actually? I forgot to ask. Thank you. It's amazing to be here, and even more amazing to be after such names and such games and studios. The one thing I can promise you about this presentation is going to be exactly 0 screens with rewards and with BAFTA. Okay? None. I was thinking to add it there, but it will be a little bit too white, a little bit too empty of a picture. This is from the other side. You know, when we started to talk about, and the clicker, well, let me be the clicker. I was thinking, what should I do as a presentation? What should be the talk? And very quickly, I was like, hey, like, talk about 9 to 5, talk about our game that we shipped, our first thing. It's going to be like 1/3 of a postmortem, then about 1/3 of a leadership talk, and then 1/3 of a personal therapy session. And I mean it completely honestly. I think it's important to speak about those things as well for the people and to hear them, actually, to say what went wrong. Because if you keep it inside, it's not going to work. So originally it was, I think, 40-40-20. I did the dry run at the office, and the folks were like, well, let's be honest, this is more of a personal therapy session. Add the number up. So I actually did. So thank you very much, Kirill, our lead designer. He did great with the feedback. So I hope I will not bore you to the death. Very quickly about me. Next year is going to be 20 years in the industry. I remember it because I was just counting it for another website that we were preparing. The reason for this slide is not me bragging or something. It's more about, I've been in the industry for quite a while, and I've done a lot of things. I was more of the designer at the beginning, then I get crazy, decided that I would be filling Excel sheets, building tables, making coffee, you know, producers, that type of work. And during the 20 years, I went through everything, you know, big names, big companies, you know, working in a small studio of 10, all the way until like I think Wargaming on World of Tanks, we had over 500 developers working at the same time. I was just development, no marketing involved. It was crazy. I was super lucky because I've never experienced one thing, a game that would actually fail, a game that would have to be closed. And I haven't thought about it, but I was very, very happy about it. Like it's very unusual situation, because let's be honest, how many stories are the success stories versus how many of stories will just end up like, well, you know, didn't go that well, like we had to close. It's a game development. It's exactly what happens. And I do think it's important to hear those stories as well, because they are way more common than those, hey, we have 11 BAFTA nominations. We didn't get that. Would be cool, and like massive kudos to the Control guys. They did it amazing. And for me, that was 9 to 5. It was actually our first game. And at the beginning, to be honest, 9 to 5 was Redhill. You know, those screens are the one on the top was actually on the top of a hotel where four of our co-founders, including me, we were talking on top of a presentation. You know, that on the corner, that's actually in our CEO's apartment where me and Mikko, our CTO, were, you know, talking and coming up with crazy ideas. You see the post-its in there? That was 9 to 5, the game, just in the buildings. We were not exactly sober. And that was actually our first ever team picture. The truth is that 9 to 5 and Redhill, our company, was one thing. In fact, if you would go on to our presentation where we were pitching the company, there was more slides about 9 to 5 than about Redhill. The company was the game, and the game was the company. It was as simple as that. We all went there with a passion. We all went there with the love of making games, making something cool. Because we are game developers at the end. That was actually the reason why we built Redhill. We were so passionate and crazy that originally it's supposed to be a PvE shooter. And then one day, our CEO came to Helsinki because he lives otherwise with a family in Cyprus. And he was like, hey, like, what is the cross PvE and like the PvP on the whiteboard? I was like, oh, yeah, Matthias, about that one. We actually decided to switch, and we are now working actually on PvP shooter, not PvE shooter. He was like, oh, didn't you forget to tell me that? It's like, yeah, sorry, that was last week. It's like, I'm just pitching the PvE games. Like, yeah, can you go back to them and ask if the PvP would be fine? That was the passion we went in. We were crazy. We were crazy driven. And to be honest, we had no idea how to make PvP games. The only reason was that we actually really wanted to do them. Like, most of our team was actually PvE experienced people. We had lots of people from Remedy, some people from Housemarque as well. So we were sort of the PvE in heart, AAA, third person, not even a first person. And we decided we just want to do something cool together. And everything was going well, the passion, the drive. We completely ignored the numbers. We had very quickly a first playables as well. We had a very strict rule, always playable. And everything was going well. Well, until the open beta weekend. We got the first numbers, and already in the closed alpha, we saw very quickly that retention wasn't showing exactly great. When people sticked, they sticked for long and they really loved the game. But when they didn't, there was a lot of people who left, and very quickly actually. We were calling it a hockey stick because it literally like plunk. That was good, but 1% of nothing is 1%. So it doesn't really count. So we had lots of players, and they had lots of opinions, but it didn't really work out. We were looking into the numbers, and we were trying our best. We started to get worried, and we started reworking things back and forth. To be honest, it sort of became a bit of a vicious cycle. We really got locked inside. We turned every single possible rock on the path, trust me, 5 times. And we wanted to 6 times if we wouldn't actually stop the developers. We wanted to make it work. Everyone wanted to make it work. Why am I still having this one? Everyone wanted to actually make it work. It was something that we were committed to, and we had a huge passion towards to do. But the truth was that it didn't really change anything. I think we changed the particle effects for the gun 4 times completely, reworked the animation system twice. Nothing was really happening. But the developers were still into it. They were still in there. And our job was to actually step in and do something with it. Otherwise, we would just run out of time. We would just actually kill ourselves on the hill that we were not really winning. I think this is a pretty common picture. I'm not sure how many of you actually saw it. I usually use it for producers, not really for companies or projects, but we went through that phase as well, right? Like, we were so freaking busy. It's like, no, come on. You as a leader have to do one thing. You have to step in. Because frankly speaking, if I wouldn't have stepped in, if Matthias, our CEO, if we wouldn't actually start discussing about what are we doing, it wouldn't go well. We would probably bankrupt at some point because we would just run out of time and money. Everyone really wanted to change it. Everyone was so invested. We heard from players like, do something better. Come on, help us out. We were going from day to day, hour to hour, improvement to improvement. It didn't really work. What I did was that I sit down and I took our most senior designers. And the first thing was get them out. Get them out of the system. Get them out of the grind. Because they were really inside the problem. They were in that moment even part of the problem. You had to get outside perspective. You have to actually elevate yourself and the team to get a breathing time. Otherwise, they're going to be way too busy. They will not see the light at the end of the darkness. Or maybe if they will actually not figure out, is it light or is it a train? You have to help them. Your job as a leader is to help them to get out. I took them out for about a week. The first day, I prepared all the materials. We had all the numbers, all the feedback from players. And I first actually took them to, in Takatele, there is a library. We booked for the whole week rooms there. And the first day we didn't even go to the room. We were just walking in Helsinki, chatting, had a lunch, had a dinner, had a good time, just talking about stuff. On purpose, I stopped any conversation about a game. I wanted them for a day not to hear the word 9 to 5, retention, sticking players, gameplay, feedback. I wanted them to just, get out. Just get a little bit of a breath, fresh air. And then the second day we sit down, it's like, okay, so we have work to do. What are we doing? And there was one rule that we established very quickly during that meeting. Nothing is off limit. Completely open feedback, completely open stuff. If you want to say this sucks, say this sucks. If you want to say we are fucked, say we are fucked. Sorry for my French. I actually had completely open discussion on this one. I wanted everyone to really say what they believe. Do you want to propose a thing that will cost us 10 million euros? Do it. Let's have everything on the table. Let's really dig into where are the problems. Let's recognize them. Let's double check if our thoughts are correct based on player feedback and based on the data we are seeing. And then suggest solutions. Even if they are crazy, even if they are kill the game, that's fine. Let's do it. Thanks to that, we managed to get, I was just opening the file when I was preparing this presentation. It was 36 pages of a PowerPoint of issues that we saw and possible solutions for those as well. It was done in a week. It was brutal. When we finished it, I kept 1 day for a break, so the folks could actually, a little bit, empty their head. And the first message I got from them the day after was like, we cannot show this presentation. This is way too rough. Like this is awful. I was like, no, that's the reason why we have to show it. That's the reason why we have to talk about it. So we took that and we presented it to all company. We wanted everyone to know, because we had one rule in a team, like no information is off limit from you. We wanted them to see all the data. We wanted them to see from monetization, from retention, everything. If you want to know the number, you will. And we very quickly get to that situation. You know the feeling. I always joke that it's the feeling when you are sitting and you just. You wake up in the morning, you have a bit full nose, you feel a bit headachy-ish. You just know that the next day will suck, it's cold. Or actually autumn in Helsinki. That was exactly the feeling we had after the presentation. We just knew that stuff is not doing great. And the team knew it as well. The thing is that your team, in that moment, will sit down exactly like you do right now, and will be looking exactly on the leader, like me, sitting here and waiting. What are you going to do about it? Because they don't know. It's not because they would have malicious reasons, but they are probably lost as much as you are. But you have to find them the way out. You have to help them out. You have to tell them how to get out, because that's your job. And they are going to be waiting for your answers. If you are the executive producer, the lead producer, development director, creative director, CEO, you name it. There's so many C and starting titles that I don't even know. But at the end, it doesn't matter what you have as a title. You are the leader of the group. They are waiting for you to do something. They are waiting because they have lots of ideas. There are so many ways. There are so many paths to take. I know that Winston Churchill might have questionable past, and I know that he did great things, bad things. The truth as well is, though, that he was one of the most fierce leaders who took his country through hell and back. No one wanted the position of prime minister in that time. Guess why? You have a looming disaster. It's called World War. It's not exactly fancy, and it usually ends up by you actually having a horrible time for a couple of years. No one really wants that. At some point, he actually said, and I will have to read because it's a mouthful, but things are not always right because they are hard. But if they are right, one must not mind if they are also hard. Well, it just means one thing. Sometimes the right things suck. They suck. And you might need to do them. Might be your responsibility to go there and say, hey, so we do this. For us, it was a meeting of the management where we sit down, and for 3 days we were talking about what are the strategy. Again, whiteboard, and we put every single option on the whiteboard. From we just continue as we do, to we will rework the 3C completely, to we will rebrand the game, we will rebrand the company. It was everything. Every single idea that you come up with was there. And our management team is 5 people, including me, myself, and they sit there and then they look all at me and we're waiting. In that moment, I hated them. I hated the guts of them. It's like, why are you staring at me, you bastards, right now? Why don't you say anything? I'm super thankful that our CEO did that, though, because he knew that at the end of the day, that game, I was responsible for it. It was my baby. It was my thing to get it up or down. And they didn't really want to take the responsibility or the decision from me, because they knew that then I will have to go to the team and tell them to the face. It's going to be my responsibility at the end to go and say, you know what? We are over. And trust me, the whole room knew exactly what was the right thing. We all knew the one thing that will have to happen. But they wanted me to do the final decision because I will have to live with the decision. And it's not easy. You are going to be standing in a room full of people, super excited, super passionate, and telling them very tough talk. But before you tell to the people, there's going to be as well that message. And every single time I see this somewhere on the web page, a little bit like a small part of me dies. Because sure, there's always we are excited to move on. It's an amazing thing we are starting. Well, at the same time, they are saying we had to kill something we loved. We had lots of people who spent lots of time, lots of energy, lots of effort, and lots of love to make a game, to make a product. And we are closing it. That story ends. It's gone. And that message is always super, super difficult. This is from our webpage, from 9 to 5. I'm not even sure if actually the webpage exists anymore, but I took it at some point before, not even for this presentation. But the thing is that every single time you start killing a project, every single time when you go through that, you will be obviously thinking about your company, about your investors, about your co-workers, about your colleagues. But don't forget about another super important person or group of people in your team, the players. Because at the end of the day, the players are there as well with you. They are participating in the project. They spend hours and hours playing, giving feedback, being there with you. They were as invested as you were in the project. They could play anything else, they could buy anything else, but they decided to buy your game, your product. They decided to be on the journey with you. So as much as you are empathic to your team, be empathic to them as well, because they are as important. And you have to as well understand how much they are going to get hurt, because they will. Because you are taking something away from them. And for some of them, like even for 9 to 5, we had players who spent hundreds of hours in the game. And we were taking all of this away from them. It sucks. So please, before you go and start focusing on all the investors, because, well, they give you all the monies, right? It's important, of course. But take them as well into account, because they are as important as the investors. Without them, without the players, without those who are actually playing our games, it's not going to work. It doesn't really matter then what we do. They, at the end, are the most important part of the team. I will do small test. Raise a hand if you know what this is coming from. Good. I don't feel that horribly old. Thank you. The truth is that just lately I actually figured out that some people don't know France, and they were actually asking, what is this? Was this some VHS thingy? Wasn't it originally actually in black and white? Because it looks very old. Yes, I'm old. It's true. But this is the last scene of France, of the TV series. And the truth is, I've never seen it. I've seen Friends like 15 times, maybe more in total. I love it. It's one of my favorite series of all times. And I've seen every single episode, except the last one. I just cannot help myself. I cannot do that. Like, I think 2 days ago, my wife was actually, like, I was already in a bed. My wife was calling me in. She's actually sitting there in the second row. And she was like, hey, like, there is something in the TV. You probably want to see it. Or actually, I'm not sure if you want to see it. I was like, what is there? Then I looked, and that scene was there. I ran away so freaking fast. I was like, no, 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 no. I didn't actually close the door and play something super loud on my iPad just not to actually see that. Because, like, it's already dedication. I'm not ready. I'm not ready to let it go. You know, for me, they are always together. I have the same thing with Big Bang Theory. Never seen that. I love this TV series. Never seen the last. The only last episode I saw was actually How I Met Your Mother. And I regret that. I should not. It almost broke me. But your developers are going to be in a very similar situation. Exactly like me. When you stand in front of them and they are going to be looking at you and they are going to be waiting, what is the news that Milos has to tell us right now? And why does he actually look so freaking sad and tired and stressed? And you are just knowing that they are about to experience the last episode. It's your job then. It's your job to stand there and to tell them news that for some of them is going to be relief. For some of them, it's going to be, you suck. For some of them, it's going to be, why? We can actually improve it. The truth is that with 9 to 5, I had 2 people who 6 months after the announcement of the previous page were actually still coming to me like, Miloš, we shouldn't do that. I have actually a great idea how to save the game. Really. I had actually 2 people like that, completely unreliable on each other. That's the love we are putting to the game, and you need to count with it when you will be talking to your team about those tough decisions, those choices, where we're taking something away from them. But the one thing which is super important is that be empathic, listen, but be firm at the same time. Don't give them the hope. You know, in many of those type of shows, there is the scene where the main actor he's broken after some breakup with someone. It's like looking on the phone and know exactly the phone call or the phone number, and then suddenly in one episode the actor will forget the number, and the actor knows that like now I can actually move on. You will have to go through the same thing. You cannot do I will be breaking up with you right now. No. That's not the way. That's not the way how to say goodbye. You have to be firm. You have to be empathic. Understand them. Hear them out. Explain them the reasons. Be there for them. But don't give them the feeling that maybe if they are going to be talking to you for long enough, maybe if we will keep thinking for 6 additional months, maybe if we would look for other publisher. No. If you decide, and when you decide, listen, stand there, take all the blame, take all the power. It's like you are going to be hated by quite a bit. But that's your job in that moment. Be there for them. And then very firmly stay and explain. Lauren Hamilton is a very famous writer. You might not know her. She is not really famous under her name. But her books are more of a fiction. But I love one of the mottos she actually using very many of them, which is there are wounds that never show on the body that are deeper and more hurtful than anything that bleeds. Again, mouthful, but it's super simple. If the injury is not visible, it usually hurts the most. And trust me, this injury is gonna hurt. It will hurt you. It will hurt your team. It will hurt everyone around you. As you are there for the people, and as you are giving them all the slack, as you are actually as well talking them through all their emotions, and as you will go through all the pain, and you will hear how much you suck and how you are the main reason for all the worst in the world, you will hear that. And it was actually great when I heard about the feedback from our players that even for games like City Skyline, you can actually get death threats. That's game is amazing, like come on. And even then you actually can get stuff like this. Now imagine, what do you go through if you have actually a game that is not as successful? It's rough. It can be tough. And we are creatives. We have actually our emotions as well. We are players after all. Those are not easy times. So as much as you are there for the people, as much as you are helping them out, cut some slack to yourself too. Make sure that you have someone who you can just talk to. Lately I had a friend who who was going through quite a bit of post-COVID issues with his company, and with losing some people, had to actually lay off about 20% of the staff, or maybe 30% of the staff, not in Finland, in Czech Republic. And he was asking me for some advice, and after I answered him, the one thing that I told him straight away was like, if you want to just vent, if you just want to scream at someone, or to just tell someone how much it sucks and the other side will just listen, you know my phone number, it's fine. Because you will need someone like that. You will need someone where you can just go and like, this sucks. Like, the world is an awful place and I'm done with all of this bullshit. And like, find someone who can help you with this. Because as you are there for the people, you need as well someone for yourself. And trust me, like I was just going with one of our producers who is going to go on leadership talk, go there as well. She will have awesome talk. One of the parts that she has there is leadership is very lonely journey. And yes, it is. So find someone so it's not as lonely for you. The one thing that very quickly, though, after you will announce all of this, there's the web page, there's the presentation, there are the emotions going through. Very quickly, the people will ask you a very simple question. What next? Be ready. One thing is you obviously want them to go a little bit through the mourning period. But like very quickly, you want to give them the second light. You want to show them the new North Star. You want to show them where you are going. Because the worst thing a general can do on the battlefield is to wait and to just stare without giving orders to people. They will get scared, they will get demoralized, they will start leaving, running away. They will be questioning more and more everything. Some direction is better than no direction. And it's one thing that you need to really be ready for, that as soon as you are giving all of those, you have to move in. You have to really quickly move. For us, from announcing that now we are closing 9 to 5, it took, I think, 2 weeks before we actually had 3 other pitches that we started working on. When we found out that those 3 pitches didn't work, it took us about 2 weeks of announcing that we are shifting to co-development. That helped a ton. I'm not sure exactly with the numbers, but I believe our retention numbers were like 15-ish%, which is actually still below the average for 2022. It's actually pretty good numbers for a company that just actually lost product and that shifted completely its focus to go to a completely different business. Because we had a plan. And for this one, I have to say, I'm super thankful again to our CEO, Matthias. And I'm not saying it just because he's my CEO. I know him for so many years that I could say anything. He will not take it personally. I was actually working with him as well, in fact, another person. But he was always bothering me with a simple question. What if it doesn't work? Every time when we were some presentation. And I hated him for that. It's like, why are you asking? Let us just work on the game, right? Why are you asking me what if it doesn't work? We need to focus. We need to really focus on what we are doing. We need to focus on what's next. Come on, like let's be positive. Well, he had a rule. Every quarter, we need to spend at least 1 day talking about other plans. What if it doesn't work? When you are crunching, when you are finishing the game, when you are going through that, all of you know how little time we have in that time, right? Do you really want to talk about something like this? Do you really have in a brain capacity for something like that? But he was always forcing us to do that. And I never understood why. Well, until 9 to 5. Then I pretty understood. Because we were able to quickly spin new strategies, new ways. We immediately had our plan Bs. And I would almost say, it says plan B. If I would be better in Photoshop, I would have actually put Z. But this is from the internet, and I really suck in Photoshop, so and like our art director didn't have time to change it. But like it's supposed to say plan Z. Don't have only plan B, because the plan B can actually fail super quickly. For us, only the 4th plan worked. We will do 9 to 5, then we will fix 9 to 5. Then we will try three prototypes. Then we will try 1 prototype, and then we were like, how about the co-development? That's not 1 plan. That didn't go as planned. So have your Matthias. Have someone who is always questioning you for that. And really reserve your time on those things. Reserve your time for the other plans. So now I was telling you what to do to keep your team, to really take care of them so they will not leave. Now I will say something completely different. They will leave, and it's fine. People will go. And it doesn't actually mean if the project fails or if it doesn't really matter if it fails. if it goes super successful or if it will completely flip. Always, there are going to be people who will leave. They want to move on, and it's fine. Our job as leaders is to hold them, is to make sure that they feel good, and we are providing them options. But at the same time, it's alive. It's amazing to see how many of the faces here I was working with before. I just by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Thank you. There was actually one over there that I was working with already twice. In 2 different companies. He actually, in fact, I was replacing him on his job, and we didn't even see each other because we missed each other by a day. Game development is about people rotating around, and it's fine. And the truth is that the name of the company is not made by the people who are working there in that moment. Come on, how many of you believe that Redhill is a great place to work just because one of the co-founders and one of the management members is saying so? Hand up. Yeah. She's actually our branding person. If she wouldn't put the hand up, it would be bad, because then I suck even more than I think. The name of the company, the picture of the company is done by 2 types of people. Those who you said no to during the interview process, and then those who left. For me, we really keep the contact with everyone who left. We are still inviting them for things. We are actually hanging out. It was amazing. During Vapu time, we always tend to do a Vapu party in the park that I have no idea of the name because it's in Finnish, and the Minä olen pikkupanda and no niin. I'm sorry, that's my extent of my beautiful language. And about a month before the Vapu this year, we had a newcomer, and then the newcomer came on the Vapu, and they were asking, who are those people? I don't know them. I was like, well, they are actually old employees. This person actually left a year ago, this one 6 months ago, this one 2 years ago. I was like, why did they come? To have a party? I don't know. We have a food, and they wanted to hang out. And how did they know that actually there's well, you keep a contact. We send a message. Do that. Have your people to visit you like that. We have actually completely open doors for all of our ex-people, not to rehire them, but to come and hang out with us. It's fine. It's super important. Because then they are, if you hear suddenly from someone who left, hey, but actually Redhill doesn't suck as it looks like. That's great. Those people they are trusted too. So take care of them. Don't hold them. Don't hate them for them leaving. That's fine. You might see them somewhere else when you move on, or they might come back. Right now, Barjan, our originally an intern level designer, he left because he wanted to see some AAA, and about 6-7 months ago, he joined back. Right now, we are talking with our ex-mission designer, Božek, who had a sabbatical for a year, and who is now actually interviewing for a junior position in production. For me, that means something. That means that we are doing something right. Because those people who left, they didn't left forever. They still want to come back. So we don't suck that bad. In every movie, there is the scene when you move on. There is the scene, of the final titles, final credits scene, where everything is over and they found a new world, new life. For me, that was that moment. This is actually from a screen. What happens if you had 9 to 5 on a Steam, but if you play it now, it means that 9 to 5 is dead. The server is not there. We were closing it January last year. I don't remember the date anymore, which is good. I shouldn't, because we moved on. The truth was that we knew that day for a while. Then at night, my lead producer, who was responsible for the backend part, called me, and he was like, so, Tatu, many of you actually know him, and he called me like, so, did you have your last game? I was like, oh, what? What last game? Well, of 9 to 5, just close the servers. I was like, oh, I forgot. I didn't play. I never had the last game. I never managed to experience the game. You can't anymore. I smiled. It meant that I moved forward. I move on. I didn't clinch to something. And I'm super happy that I didn't manage to actually get the last game. Because 9 to 5 and the game is still going to be in my head, but I'm not sticking with it. And it's super important. I have so many friends who are now working on the 5th installment of the same idea in their head that 4 times failed, and they are still trying. They still believe. I congratulate, but If it was once before, because it was bad market. If it was the second time, because there was another game that was coming at the same time. If it was the third time, because the team wasn't perfect. If it was the fourth time, because the Mars and Jupiter were not exactly in a conclusion together. I'm sorry, folks, but maybe it is the idea. Maybe you want to move on. Maybe you don't want to do it to you, or to your teams, or to your companies, to cling to something that you actually proven yourself it doesn't work. And trust me, there were so many things in 9 to 5 that just didn't work. It's fine. We learn from it, take the experience, remember it, but don't cling to it, don't hold it, don't try to fix yourself or prove yourself, or prove you were correct. That's the worst thing you can do to everyone around yourself, plus it's the worst thing to do to yourself. Please don't. Move on. It's super important. Find your way how to move on. Because I do think that as the colleagues were coming to me late, with like, hey, can we still save the game? I had the same tendency, and we had to stop it. We had to be firm. We had to believe into our decisions. At the same time, people ask me, like, how was it to shift to core development? Like, do I more, do I still feel bitter about it or something? And the thing is that no. This is from our webpage, and in maybe about a week we will announce more stuff. I cannot say anything else, but we are working with Blizzard right now in a co-dev with them. The whole team, actually. We even grew the team by, I think we are now right now 85, right? Yeah, 85. I have actually our recruiter over there, our QA there, and our branding here, so I always can double check if I'm saying bullshit, and then they will actually tell me what I said wrong as well. The thing is that at the beginning, the first thing that if you take a look on the presentation, I was talking about the presentation of Redhill. The first page said we are working on we want to be a company to work on AAA shooter experience delivered to millions of players and be proud of what we do. That was our goal. It wasn't a 9 to 5. It was that statement. It was that statement what we want to do. We thought 9 to 5 is that. But the truth is that without 9 to 5, we wouldn't get there. The only thing we didn't understand, is that 9 to 5 wasn't meant to be the game, to be the AAA worldwide success, millions of players, but it will be just a tool for us and for the team to do exactly what we always dreamt of, to do exactly what we always wanted to work with one of the biggest studios in the world on something we are goddamn proud of, on a shooter, on a AAA stuff delivered to millions of players. We've done that. We've done that just not exactly the way we thought so, but that's what we should be proud of, and we are. And I'm thankful for it as well. So think about your steps, because sometimes it's not a journey, but it's what is actually waiting for you on the other side. Like, sure, sometimes the light in the tunnel is a train, let's be honest. For 9 to 5, it was. But at the same time, without that train, we wouldn't get there. When I do talks, I talk a lot. I'm chatty, you probably noticed. So I always do at least one page where I'm trying to summarize what the hell I was trying to say. And for me, if you would just sleep through and you would wake up right now, and the good thing was that I didn't see anyone falling to sleep. Hey. I did actually on one of my talks, and it was awesome because I always using this joke, and that person, I even knew the person. So the person fell asleep because he was super tired from the night before. I so much enjoyed the fact that he slept. And I actually called him in the room. But I want you to remember those 4 things. Number 1, when struggling, step back, get outside of the system. Get out of the box, get the external view. Don't let yourself be crushed by the moment. Get some breathe time. Number 2, communicate always with empathy. Listen, be there for the people you are talking to, but be firm at the same time. Be strong. Don't hesitate, because the hesitation is going to be way worse than every single message you say. Number 3, always have more than one plan. And I would almost put there, and have you, Matthias, have someone who is actually forcing you to always think that way. Because you will want not to think that way. You are going to be so busy, point number 1. So have someone who can help you to get. And number 4, after all of this crap, carry yourself as well. Cut yourself some slack. You will get there. It's going to be tough. Game development is one of the most beautiful things you can do in a planet. It's probably one of the most stressful things as well you can do in a planet. It's not easy. I love how at Remedy, and I don't want to actually miss-say it, so I hope that Remedians will listen to me and correct me, but I think making games is hard, if it's like that, right? It is. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous, it's amazing, but it's goddamn tough. So, thank you very much. I hope...
Saadaanko mikrofoni taas päälle? Thank you, Miloš.
I hope it didn't suck.
No, you did not suck. We do have time for questions. Are there any in the audience? If you can run the microphone. Let's take the man in the gray shirt first.
Thank you that someone has questions. It's always awful.
Yes.
Is it on? Yes. Hi.
Hey.
Thanks for the presentation and the postmortem. The thing I would like to know, how do you know when is the time to kill the child,
It's a very good question and a very tough question. I would say it's about 2 months before you will do it, in my opinion. Get all of the ideas, listen to your people, listen to the players, put all the options on a whiteboard, and then think yourself, does it still make sense? What are the risks versus gains? What are the benefits? And then start thinking, how big of a chance is if I take all of my team and invest them to this, that we will again fail? Is it still worth it of the one more failure? Is it still worth for those people to suffer again? To go again through what it still didn't work? As soon as you start thinking about this, as soon as you will have that moment, like, is it really worth? Kill it with fire. Napalm, great. Just murder it. It was already too late in that moment.
Thank you. Hi, thank you for the presentation. You said that you mentioned that you have had a lot of, you have made a big presentation about the different issues with the development and such. I think maybe I missed it or something, but what do you think were, like, if you could just, like, because I don't know the game 95, so if you could just, like, take some 3 biggest issues that you think that game had, or like that.
Thank you. I just got a bottle. I actually told my colleagues that this is going to be one of the first questions going to be asked. It's not there on purpose. I'm preparing another presentation exactly about the design of, like, what were the problems. I would say the top 3. Number 1, we tried completely new game mode, which was 3v3v3. So 3 teams of 3 fighting on the same map. When we started going through that, we noticed one thing. It was done twice before. It always failed, and no one tried ever again, for some reason. And we were like, we are just geniuses, right? We just found, the fountain of knowledge. Yeah, bullshit. The reason why actually there was no other attempt was that it actually didn't work at all. And everyone who tried it actually knew it already and failed. So that was one thing. The 3v3 brought lots of issues, both on communication, on the flow of the game, on the fact that players were losing more often than they were winning, which was actually really bad. Number 2, our second-to-second, especially animation, wasn't as fluent. It wasn't as great. We invested too little, too late into that. And I love when I heard from Housemark the gameplay first, or gameplay is the king. We kept that as well, but I think the one thing we didn't was that we sort of ignored the fact that if you take a look on the animation teams of other companies who were doing something similar, they had a huge animation compartment. We didn't. We didn't really get a 3C designer. We were trying to sort of find it ourselves, and that didn't work. We should have actually focused much more. The third, our expectation of people accepting issues and problems in early access, we underestimated that by a, not even landslide, by millions. And the fact was that early access in a shooter is very different beast than early access in Kerbal Space Program. The shooters out there, the market is super, super demanding. It's cramped, are amazing games that are just so good on the feeling side. And if you don't start with that, why would actually people stuck with you, right? So it didn't work. I would say 4th as an extra one, because I said 3, but I actually meant 4. The 4th one would be that we underestimated the data that we were getting, or we were trying to explain them differently. Our retention showed from the get-go that it's not great, but we were sort of trying to explain it, and we explained it wrong. We thought that it's because we are in closed beta, it's only for a weekend, or releasing beta in time when small companies like, I don't know, Valorant coming out. Wasn't the best timing, but we immediately said like, well, it's because of Valorant, that's fine. Well, it wasn't. It already showed us that, well, those people actually played us, but they jumped to the Valorant. So it actually happened afterwards. So those 4, I would say, are the 4 main ones. And I hope that at some point I will have a chance to do a speech only about those.
Next game's hell.
Right, thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe.
We have time for one more quick question. Is there one? Let's go for that man in the gray.
Thanks. First of all, I like your socks.
Thank you. I'm really sorry for that. I just feel so much more homey if I don't have to have shoes. We have no shoes policy at the office as well. I just like it. And it was the one first thing that I was asking, like, can I take away the shoes, please? So, yeah.
No, but they're cool. But as a question, do you feel, you can also answer with no comment if this is a bad question to ask, but do you feel, or is there still a dream or a pipeline or a timeline where you see Redhill doing a development of their own and not co-development? So a passion project or something that's bubbling under, is that a dream of your own if it's not a dream for the company?
So number one, there are no bad questions. I believe there are always just bad answers. I see now the recruitment person, Ben, steering at me, is like, what is he going to say? Well, we get this question quite often from the candidates as well. When we announced the co-development as a strategy, one of the first things we said to people is, we don't want to make our own games anymore. Am I saying that Redhill will never, ever, ever make a game of our own? No, I'm not saying that. I cannot tell you that. What I'm saying is that it's not in our plan, it's not in our strategy, it's not something we want to really pursue or actually we want to follow. And we don't want people to believe that they will. And when I was actually saying about, be firm, this is exactly the type of firm messaging. Am I saying through that I would like to make my own games? Not necessarily. But at the same time, I don't want to give wrong assumptions or wrong, expectations. I don't want to mislead someone. If it's the candidate, if it's our own employee, or if it's even myself, into maybe next year. No. Right now that's not in our plan. Co-development is doing very well, and people are actually excited about it. We have great partner. We are thinking as well down the road. We are expanding the team. We actually get to work on something we are very proud of, and we can really make a big difference. So, and big kudos to Blizzard, super amazing people who are as well very passionate about it. I know that there might be like, oh my God, evil corporate employees. They are just developers out there who love what they do. I don't really care about all the other stuff, politics and stuff. I don't really care. I just care about the fact that I can work with people who are so freaking invested into games making. And I think that's as well for me sort of the answer. I want to just work on something that makes sense, that we love.
Okay. Thank you, Miloš. Thank you for the questions.
Thank you all.